Congratulations to all of you, the WWE fans, who literally stayed up 4 hours to see this SummerSlam. And I will say this, SummerSlam wasn't bad, but there was a lot of screwy finishes and a lot of disappointments. I will say that having like the tag team elimination match was the most disappointing for me because of how it was won. It was very entertaining, very pretty fast paced, but the outcome wasn't so pleasant. But it is what it is. We have our new champions, the New Day. And as you can see, 4 hours started to get hard. When the third hour hit, it got hard. And some of the matches kind of slowed down, which kind of slowed down the adrenaline. But then you can also tell with the crowd was literally saving themselves up for the main event. And I'm not going to get into the main event as of yet, but I will say that, good grief, there were so many tag team matches as well as team matches and one triple threat match on this card that made up the entire card. The Divas match actually, it was somewhat disappointing, but it wasn't horrible. A lot of people, especially on Twitter, were not happy to know that Team Bad got eliminated so easily and so quickly. And I feel like that they haven't really learned their lesson with eliminating the most popular person that quickly, like they did with Daniel Bryan for the Royal Rumble. They eliminated him way too early, and he had a huge backlash with the crowd. Now, Sasha Banks happens to be the most over diva there is. Don't get me wrong, we got Paige, we got Charlotte, we got Becky Lynch, but Sasha Banks, the boss, is the most popular. In my opinion, she is. And the fact that Team Bad got eliminated that easily, and she also lost her title the previous night for NXT, yeah, I think it was way too early. But I'm kind of happy that, that Paige's team actually won. People kind of already predicted the Bellas was going to win, but I'm happy they did. Like I said, at least I got that right. that out of the entire predictions on the card, I got all of them wrong except for one. And it was nice to actually know that I thought it was going to be between Team Bad and Team PCB, but unfortunately it was Team PCB versus Team Bella. That's the only thing I got wrong. But regardless of that, the outcome is okay. I'll deal with it. And then moving down the line, here's one match that was really disappointing for me. Not as disappointing as the main event, but I was really disappointed with Rusev versus Ziggler. Ziggler always seems to get over only with whoever's on his arm. Whatever chick is on his arm, he's able to get over and get some kind of a feud thing going, depending on the chick that's actually with him at the time. Now, this feud isn't even about them. It's not about Rusev. It's not about Ziggler. It's about the two divas. It's about Summer Rae and Lana. And it should have been a mixed tag. It should have been a mixed tag match, or at least a Divas match with just those two scrapping. But instead, we got Rusev and Ziggler fighting, with them fighting outside the ring. And once again, they're wearing skirts. And what in the world was she wearing? She looked like a cheap hooker with all that denim on. She looked terrible. And it was really bad. And Summer Rae, oh boy. All I know is that they should have had their ring attire on, and they should have been wrestling, not the dudes. Or at least have it to be a mixed tag. But instead, it was a one-on-one. I don't know, a one-on-one with the guys. It shouldn't have been. And I didn't agree with how that match went at all. But in either or, man, I didn't really care much about Ryback. And the triple threat match that was for the IC belt, I didn't care much about it, but the win was really cheap. I'm sorry. You had the Big Show completely dominating everybody in the ring, thinking that the Big Show was going to win, which would have been okay. And I would rather Miz win because the Miz needs to win. But then here comes Ryback with a quick roll up over the Miz, and boom, done. Ryback was dominated throughout most of the match, and then all of a sudden he has a quick roll up, done. I'm like, come on. And then that's cheap finish number one. Seriously. And then we got a major cheap finish number 2. And I really want to get into this, but I keep forgetting we had 10 matches on the card. So I'm going to try to talk about them. Talk about all of them. The ones I can actually remember. Because it was so freaking many. Did I care much about the Wyatts versus the Shield? No. And it was the Wyatts versus the Shield minus 2 members. We got 1 member that's gone. And 1 member that is now by himself and needs to heal. So it was the Wyatts versus the Shield part 5. Minus Seth Rollins and Eric Rowan. And I didn't care about it. Not at all. Even though the faces got the win, I did not care. Not in the slightest. But I will say that Cesaro versus Owens was really good. That was the main event of the night. It was. I'm sorry. It really was. That match was absolutely amazing. And I really enjoyed watching it. And I will say this, Sheamus versus Orton. I didn't think anyone would care about it. I know I didn't, because I know they were vets and I knew it was going to be great, and it was. But seeing how Sheamus won and Orton lost, that shocked me. I was surprised. I really, really was highly surprised. But I knew the overall match was going to be great, so, you know, it really wasn't anything surprising. But either or, the outcome was a huge surprise, and I was kind of happy that the outcome did happen, because Sheamus needs to win more than Orton. But moving on from that match to the match that I actually did find very interesting and was very impressed with. The match with Neville and Stephen Amell versus Stardust and the Cosmic King, King Barrett. I was highly impressed with Stephen Amell. I mean, this guy is an actor. Probably practiced within a few weeks before SummerSlam. He got every move down. And he literally actually played his injuries very well. He probably was hurt, but either or, it was a great match. I was impressed with him. I really was very impressed with him. And I was impressed with how well he had great chemistry with Neville. It was a great match. And usually when you see someone, a celebrity or an actor, or whoever it is outside the wrestling world, perform with the wrestlers, you automatically assume this person's gonna suck. Can we say Snooki? But besides her, she's only doing it for other reasons. But besides her, you can feel that this guy is a legit wrestling fan. And he actually did care about how the match was going to look. And he did his best. And he did a good job. And I was highly impressed. Here's another disappointment of the night, guys. I love me some Jon Stewart. I always will love me some Jon Stewart. God bless that man. But the one thing that irritated me the most was his interference in the match with Seth Rollins and John Cena. Seeing how that for some strange reason you got Jon Stewart, who happened to be feuding with Seth Rollins, just go heel randomly and take out Cena just to have Seth Rollins win everything. Yeah, that's the only problem that I have with celebrities being a part of the actual program. The interferences is unnecessary. Jeremy Piven is a huge example. He wasn't needed at all. I love Jon Stewart, but Jon Stewart just needed to just do the opener, and that was it. He didn't need to be in segments, even though he is a great talker. And his little moment that he had with Paul Heyman actually was, in my opinion, gold. But the fact that he actually interfered in the match was just unnecessary. And Seth Rollins needed a clean win. He didn't get it this time. And I'm like, this guy really does need to be legit. And he's not legit. Sure, you got both the U.S. title and the World Heavyweight title. But his win is still not legit. He still does not look like a legit champion. And the fact that he beat Cena in that way, wow. But, and I know everybody's be like, oh, you're disappointed Cena lost. No, it's not that at all. Seth Rollins really needed to do something to make those belts look better on him as a champion. Seth Rollins isn't that great of a champion. He hasn't done anything with the belts, let alone brought any worth to them, him being a champion. He literally got kind of eclipsed because of Taker and Lesnar. And then after that, John Cena owned him on the mic several nights in a row. He needed to look good, and he didn't look good here. I'm sorry. There should not have been any interference at all with Seth Rollins' match. He should have beat him clean, and it should have been legit, and it was not legit. Seriously. Thanks, Jon Stewart. And I love me some Jon Stewart, but he should not have been there. But guys, I probably did miss a few other matches. There was like so many matches on the card that I probably forgot a few. And if I have, leave it in the comments if you want to chat about it. But I'm going to talk about the main event, because that was the one thing that pissed me off the most. Now, Taker versus Lesnar has been overhyped for almost a month. They have literally been just in your face about this ridiculous feud that should have ended at WrestleMania 31 instead of ending it now, which it really isn't ended, and you think it was going to be an epic war. It was a war. I'm not going to lie. It was a battle. It was a war. I'm not going to deny that, but the finish was cheap. It was. I'm sorry. I knew that Taker couldn't even beat Lesnar on his best day. We all knew this. And I wanted Taker to lose so bad because I want the streak to be completely dead. And seeing how moronic the fans are starting to become, they're going to want the streak to continue. And you know what? If the fans start to like it, they're going to try to bring the whole darn thing back. That was my theory. That's why I didn't want Taker to win, because Taker versus Lesnar represents the streak being broken. And the streak needs to be broken. It don't need to come back. They don't need to start counting from saying, okay, so yeah, he's 32, he's 22-1, or he's 22-8, or whatever. It needs to die. It needs to be completely dead. That's the reason why I wanted him to lose. And I want that to be a symbolism. I wanted that to be symbolism to the crowd to show that, look, the streak is dead and ain't coming back. That's what I wanted. But then here comes the screwy finish. They ended up having Undertaker tap out. When good grief, when Brock Lesnar literally had his submission hold locked in, you had Undertaker tap out. And literally tap out. The timekeeper saw it and rang the bell. But the ref didn't. So the ref was pretty much bickering back and forth with the timekeeper and the bell keeper. Just going back and forth, bickering. Then all of a sudden, you get a low blow. The low blow is probably the most cheapest way to win for any heel ever. Taker he's a character of his own. He's not necessarily a heel, he's not necessarily a face, he's just Taker. I can't even call him an anti-hero. He is his own entity. You got a guy that has as much prestige, as much honor in that name, to literally low blow for a win was pathetic. It was. It was pathetic for Taker, and it didn't give Taker any justice. Even though I was rooting for him to lose, it wasn't a good way for Taker to win. And it wasn't a good way for Brock to go out. But I will say that having Paul Heyman get the mic at the very end, saying that, you saw it, I saw it, the crowd saw it, Brock wins. I'm honestly like Paul Heyman. Seriously, we all saw him tap. Even though the ref didn't see him tap, he tapped. Regardless. But in the end, it don't really matter. This stupid feud is going to continue. And I really don't want it to. It needed to die. And it should have died at 31. But gosh, they're going to continue with this garbage? Gosh. I've never been so disappointed and pissed off at an ending in my entire life, because this is not something that you wouldn't see Taker do. Seriously. That was a cheap way to get a win. That was a cheap way to beat him. It was. But honestly, guys, my overall thoughts is this. It was hard to get through the 4 hours. It was. And I guess because I'm not accustomed to 4 hours of a pay-per-view. But I will say the matches were okay. They weren't horrible. There were a few matches that actually were pretty entertaining and fast paced. But honestly, at the third hour, it got hard. I fell asleep a few times and I woke up in the middle of the match. But regardless, it got hard after the third hour. But when you made it to the fourth hour and saw that finish, they should have switched it around. Brock versus Taker should not have been the main event. It should have been Cesaro versus Owens. That should have been the main event. They should have switched that whole thing around. And not to mention that everybody's talking about how the Brooklyn crowd sat on their hands. You got to understand that they actually chose for some strange reason to have NXT around the same week. Not only that, they were the previous night. They had NXT do their pay-per-view on Saturday and then turn around and have SummerSlam on Sunday. There was a lot of high caliber, high quality matches that was for NXT. So they're probably, their expectations is way high. And then they end up seeing that. Yeah, it's going to be like at this level. But regardless, man, they had some screwy finishes. The card was all over the place. And honestly, the matches weren't horrible. They actually were pretty entertaining. But there was some really disappointing endings with some screwy finishes that really did irritate me and disappointed me a lot. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Send a video response on your thoughts about SummerSlam. But guys, I am exhausted and I'm about to go to bed now. Naturegirl 30 signing off. Peace out, guys. Later.